Hey guys, it's Matt, and we have a rare appearance of Puss on the chair that Bootsy's now taken up right next to the heater. That is her spot. She will be the most dominant and take over, but you didn't come here for that. Some people did. Um, what is going on with the Merovingian in the new Matrix? I watched Matrix Explained this morning. They're never going to get it. No movie reviewer is ever going to get it. No, you're never going to get it because they don't understand how the world works. That is, there's a one world system here of creeps, things. Almost nothing that is presented is as it seems. Nothing presented by authority or in your history is as it seems. If you stumbled upon this video because it said Merovingian and you're a Matrix fan, boy or girl, this is going to be quite bizarre to you. I can't bring you up to speed on something that requires 10 years worth of work. Well, not really. Maybe a good 3 years to drop all your veils, to shed all your biases and bigotries as to how this world works. Nothing works as it seems. So I'm not sure. I can't talk to them guys, the 4 or 5 people from Skokie that would have stumbled upon this. I can't talk to them. There's no way I can bring them up to speed. I can only hope that they see that the person that would be delivering this presentation is not out of their mind and they might have a little work to do. It starts by turning off the news, not believing very much that comes on the news. That's just my advice to you few people that have stumbled upon this video. Okay, guys, the Merovingian. Um, Again, no regular reviewer is going to truly understand what is being presented. But let's start with the basics. Um, Most people in this community believe that works of art, and including movies, deliver the truth of how this reality works at its fundamental layer. What comes via Encyclopedia Britannica or from an authority source is almost always wrong. So we've learned a long time ago to look for little hints to build on our own understanding to different forms of art, songs, music, movies, TV, even nursery rhymes. Now, how weird does that sound to anybody that's just here for the first time because the title is Merovingian? There was somebody, I guess, somebody in the last video commented, I'm here for World of Warcraft. What is all this stuff about the 33? Or what are you guys talking about? Like, he was totally lost. But anyway, sorry. Um, so, guys, I believe, I'll just tell you what I believe, and even some people in this community might not, but I believe that the Matrix is one of the highest level truths, not necessarily for. That is open for debate. We're still analyzing it. Greg is like an idiot savant Rain Man when it comes to it. He can see it once at 3 in the morning because he doesn't sleep and remember more about it than I can after seeing it 2 or 3 times. He's now seen it twice. I've seen it 4 times. So I didn't want to give my review, what I thought is good or bad. I'm holding off because there's a lot here, folks. So let's just start with the basics. No movie has had more symbolism and has been more broken down or analyzed from its symbolism and its allusions to how the world potentially really works than The Matrix. We've been basically breaking it down for 20 years. In terms of film, I don't think there's anything that the Creeps have ever put out that has more allegory to real truth than The Matrix. That's my belief. All sorts of people have broken it down for 20 years, people that we respect in our community. Now, this isn't a coincidence, all right? Something that carries that weight is not going to just put out a number 4 because they need to make money or because Lana Wachowski, brothers and sisters, because she needs to work. No, no. Greg, we didn't know what was going on truly the first time we saw it, Greg and I, but we both sensed there's a lot here, folks. Remember the carrier wave in Contact? They bring in that horrible Jodie Foster, Ellie Arroway brings in, what was his name? We'll call him Chet from Weird Science, and he's the blind guy, and he says, "Shh, quiet." There's a lot more here, folks. Tuned to whatever gigahertz, and there's another band, a whole carrier wave. That's what the matrix does. There's a whole other thing going on here. This video is not for you or any other subsequent breakdown of the matrix. Greg and I will continue to analyze it over the next few weeks. If it's just Lana Wachowski wanted to make the Warner Brothers needs money, Matt, and they need to appease shareholders. If you think that's all it is, it's not for you. All right, it has nothing to do with money. So, Matrix Explained channel, they did sense a little bit as to what the Merovingian scene was all about, and considering it's a normie presentation that believes I have to talk in code here for anybody new. They won't let me post these videos. What does that tell you? Most people that watch Matrix Explained, I can't even say it, Matrix Explained, and probably the people that put it together, um, we're they're normie types. They probably read the 7-Eleven 2001 Commission report and believe it. So that's if you believe that, you don't understand the basics of how this reality works, then you can't truly analyze a movie like The Matrix. So they got some right about the Merovingian. Let me get right to the point. Right to the point. 6 minutes in, Matt. Jeez, get on with it. Yeah, I'll get right to the point. And then I'll try to expand on this, and then of course look to your comments. Do you believe what I'm saying about the Merovingian, what Greg and I have come up with thus far? Okay. Let me read to you. Let me tell you what. If you haven't seen the movie, let me tell you what happens with the Merovingian. To me, if you're a fan of the Matrix, like a normie, it's cringeworthy. It's the scene is out of place. It's not well done. It almost destroys one of the most beloved characters in all the Matrix. I'm sure millions of Matrix fans are just fuming because this is how they brought their beloved character back, the Merovingian. In the first three, remember, he had this $10,000 suit, and he had his caviar and his. I can do a lot of voices, guys. I cannot do an angry Frenchman. I tried it a few times, and I'm just gonna not go there. I can do a lot of voices. This one just always comes out wrong. Maybe I'll do it if anybody wants to just laugh at me as I read his lines. But he had his trophy wife and his beautiful club and style and art. And then we see him in Matrix 4. For those that haven't seen it, he comes into a scene where it's forced. It seems this way. But see, this is one of the key messages in the entire movie that had to be delivered. He comes in like a bum. He's wearing rags. His teeth are all rotted. And again, people really wanted to see, millions of Matrix fans wanted to see the Merovingian character that they saw in the first three, and probably they're terribly disappointed because they don't realize what needs to be said here. So he comes out, and it's during a fight scene where Neo and others are fighting with different bad guys, and he's fighting with Smith, and the Merovingian's up on a platform, and he's screaming, barking down, angry at Neo. And I'll tell you, I put together two different people sent me basically what he said. Each had different components. This is everything put together. He's screaming, and he says, it is you. I mean, I can't do it. It is you. You sons of bitches. I mean, he hates Neo. He can't. He's fuming mad. And again, it seems cringeworthy, but there's a reason for this scene, guys, and it's big, in my opinion, and Greg agrees. Greg actually came up with more than this than I did. So it is you all these years. I can't believe it. I can't do it. You stole my life. You ruined every suck my silly ass thing. Yes, he says this. You ruined every suck my ass silly thing. What? We had style. We had conversation. We had conversation. Not this beep 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 beep. He's pissed. He's like the whole world's on their phone. What's this? He's saying we had conversation, people with people. Not this beep 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 beep. I'll just continue. He says something in French. Mad. He says art, film, books were all better. Originality mattered. You gave us fake Zucker suck. Face. Same thing. You gave us face Zucker suck. Complete kick in the balls to Zuckerberg at Facebook. You gave us face. I'm going to read this all again without all the commentary, guys, one more time. I'm sorry. You gave us face, sucker suck, and cock me climatey. The word climate with a Y on the end. Does that have to do with something change? Probably. And wiki, you gave us wiki piss and shit. This is not over yet. Our sequel franchise spinoff, and then he spits on the ground. Okay, one more time, guys, and then I'll. You're gonna break that nonsense down? Yeah, I am. It is you all these years. I can't believe it. You stole my life. You ruined every suck my silly ass thing. We had grace. We had style. We had conversation. Not this beep, 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 beep. People on their phones. Something in French. Art, film, books were all better. Originality mattered. You gave us face, Zucker suck, and cock me climatey. Yeah, climate. And you gave us wiki peace and shit. This is not over yet. Our sequel franchise spinoff. Forget the not over yet sequel franchise spinoff, and that's not completely relevant here. Okay, so guys, Greg and I believe this. We're at 99% in terms of this is what happened. Okay, can't quite go the whole way yet, but we can get you to the seventh inning stretch. We have two more innings to go to figure all this out. The Merovingian in the Matrix series, the first three, is a metaphor. Let's just say personification. Metaphor is not correct at all. Personification or representation of art, style, and culture itself. It's not the Merovingian. Look, that is art itself, a walking, living personification of art. So when this is a new matrix presented in Matrix 4, it has real cities that are mentioned, like Hong Kong is mentioned, Tokyo is mentioned, San Francisco is clearly San Francisco, shows all the major um, iconic buildings, the Golden Gate Bridge. We know it's San Francisco. What is presented in Matrix 4 is a representation of this world, what we're in right now. And it's also shot in like your regular high definition 4K camera. The first Matrix didn't mention any cities. You really didn't know where it was. You were supposed to not know where it was. That's one of the reasons I believe it was shot in a city in Australia. I know you Australians know where it is, but outside of Australia, you don't recognize the city or the signage on top of the buildings. No city was ever mentioned. It was shot in a greenish hue, so you know you were in that version of the Matrix, probably Matrix version 6. It was very vague. It was even when he was in the Matrix, it was foggy. The program that Morpheus ran, or that inserted the woman with the red dress, the construct program, was much more vivid, much more alive. That could have been potentially the streets of New York, but that was the construct. That wasn't the quote real Matrix. So it's vague, it's green, and there's no city mentioned. Now the new iteration of the Matrix, what's shown in Matrix 4, we have crystal clear clarity, looks just like it is out your window. It's supposed to be a representation of this world. That's kind of the point. Cities are mentioned. They're on what you consider to be Earth. Tokyo, Hong Kong that was not the case in the first Matrix. Like, what is this city that pretends where people can go through their lives and pretend? It was very vague, and you have specifics mentioned in a different type of filming, which I guess I mentioned. So when Neo, 1 minute for those that aren't highly familiar with the Matrix series, Neo's job was to carry a code. He was used all along in the first three by the architect and the oracle to simply carry this anomalous code so it could be reinserted and a new version of the matrix can spring up. A new version of the matrix every so often has to spring up, and this thing called the One has to carry the code. Neo carried the code. Nobody, like the Oracle, was really helping him. He was used from start to finish, and he did his job to help the bad guy. In the first three, Neo did his job to help the bad guy. He helped the bad guy far more than he helped any good guys or people, struggling to eat half a dog biscuit back in Zion. He helped the bad guy. The code was inserted. the Matrix was reset. Sati came back to life at the end of Matrix 3. The black cat rematerialized, and then thus you have this Matrix. Okay, now what Greg and I are saying is, see, since the Merovingian is a personification of art itself, when the new Matrix popped up, he was reset instantly. He basically went from his $10,000 suits, his lush, lavish lifestyle in the clubs, the caviar, the trophy wife, all that. All of a sudden, just the code came down. He's still alive because art still exists, almost. See, art is almost dead in our version of Matrix. Real life out your window. He probably was reset in an instant, and went, what? He started cursing, mad. He started cursing in French and all. What the heck happened? Well, of course he blames Neo. He was the highest level of art, which the Matrix at least is saying. And many of us remember it. It existed um, in the last century, or the last version of the Matrix that we were in. I'll get to that a little bit later if you want to go, stick with me for some way out theories. But see, he was reset. He went Merovingian. Went, what happened? He looked in the mirror. He's like boogers hanging out and teeth falling out. And what happened? So then in the scene, remember, he blames Neo. It is you. I can't believe it. You stole my life. You stole my life. Well, if it's just if he made art go away slowly, why wouldn't the Merovingian still have this $10,000 suits in the closet? He could still, for a while, pretend to be debonair and on top of everything, and he probably has a lot of canned goods and canned caviar. No, he was reset. He just probably completely. Now somebody might be yelling at me saying, Matt, this is supposed to be 60 years later. Maybe he did destroy art. Merovingian may not have been a complete personification of art, but was his lifeblood or sustenance was tied to art itself, and slowly he degraded because either way, Neo destroyed art in what in what or you could say the new version of the Matrix destroyed art. Now, this is worth talking about because this is exactly what is going on now. Then go watch my last video. It's every single genre of art or creativity that was once great is being destroyed, either on purpose being destroyed, but it's almost like it's more like a script that needs to be followed in the destruction of all art because this matrix doesn't literally now I'm talking about the real world that we're in now. That's I'm trying to bridge what happened to the Merovingian to the real world. This matrix doesn't abide by, if that's the right word, by good art. It can't tolerate it. It is poison to it. It tries to snuff it out and kill it and squash it. And that's basically what is being shown in Matrix 4. So in this world, basically, even my last video, World of Warcraft, something very unique, novel, interesting, it's destroyed. All great music destroyed. All great movies destroyed. And guys, we've been over this over and over, but there's all different types of people here. So what is being said here in the Matrix absolutely applies to what's happening in our world. If anybody new stumbled upon this because of the word Merovingian, tell me about a great movie that's been made in 20 years. Tell me about great songs and albums like the Beatles' White Album and things from the past. Tell me about great TV shows like Seinfeld. It doesn't exist in this world, our world today. There's a reason for that. Everybody that was creative didn't just get uncreative, if that's the right word, overnight. And aren't we told all these big companies need to make money and appease shareholders? Don't they want to seek out creative people? It doesn't make sense even to the common person or the normie that doesn't dabble in what we dabble. It doesn't make sense that the world today is so devoid of creative art across the board. Well, there's a reason for that. And those that, study conspiracy and things like that can tell you a lot of reasons for that. You're not going to find the answers to that in Wikipedia, in your beep, 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 or it's Britannica Cyclopedia. We used to use World Book when I was in elementary school and junior high. We used to try to we had no internet. We'd love the World Book because it was so simple. You could just copy the words out of the World Book and submit your report that way. Britannica to us was too complicated. We weren't this elementary school of mine wasn't very smart. Um, So you have a huge parallel with what's happening now in this Merovingian scene. So in summary, the Merovingian is a personification of art itself. Neo reset the matrix in a certain way that destroyed him, destroyed art. The Merovingian complains about that is the case in his matrix. All you have is people on their phones, beep, 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 beep. Well, it's exactly what's happening in our world. Okay, why did that happen? All the other the Merovingian would say, "I survived your predecessors, and I'll survive you." And he was through five or I guess six iterations of the Matrix. Neo in the first three was number six, I believe. The Merovingian sitting there with his $1,000 dinner and his Dom Perignon and his $10,000 suit. So why is this reset of the Matrix different if he why is this matrix reset of the matrix different if he got through just fine with all the others? So Greg and I think he has a personification of art completely overnight was reset into a bum. All right, the only thing we can point back to is Neo's choice, and this is where Greg and I kind of hit a wall. But remember, the only thing different with this new matrix versus all the others, as admitted by the architect, is I'll just for those not ultimate fanboy or girl for the Matrix, the architect. You have two doors to choose from. This door leads back to Zion. We'll give you a temporary peace. We'll destroy Zion. You can rebuild Zion as all your predecessors have with the 23. Was it 17 females, six males? The 23, two divided by three is 666. You go back, you know, that many females to male, have fun for 100 years, repopulate like good little cattle and chattel and animals. And that's what so you have to choose this. You have no other choice to keep your species alive. If you choose that door, and what the architect says, and what I think you're going to do, like go after Trinity or however he puts it, it will lead to the destruction of Zion. And he basically says your entire race will be destroyed. You're done, you know. So all of the other quote ones and that's whether he was the one or he was not the one by himself. In the first three, the normie comes out saying Neo was the one. He was only he was the one if you combine him with Smith, and in this case, he needs to combine with Trinity to be the one. He's not ever the one by himself, but that's probably for another video, and I'm no expert at that either. So, it says if you choose that door, it's going to lead to the destruction of your entire race. Now, all the others that came before Neo will anybody that's rational, knowing the power of the machines and all the impossible things would have to take place if you went out this door. Um, the other ones, Neo's predecessors, all chose the most rational thing. Well, reset of Zion, at least we keep our species alive, and they'll allow us to rebuild over 500 years or whatever it is until the population of Zion gets to a certain amount and the whole thing starts over again, which the new one emerges, the code needs to be reset, etc. So Neo did surprise the architect because all the other ones, five before him, had gone out this door, and the architect was truly surprised. It was the Oracle that played that dangerous game that led Neo to go out that door. The Oracle played a quote dangerous game according to the architect and did things basically behind the architect's back of which he wasn't aware. Ultimately, she succeeded and she succeeded for him. He did his job. He reset the matrix. He did his job for the bad guys. But when he went out that door and sought specific love for Trinity, the architect was truly surprised. And Neo says, if we meet again, I should hope we don't meet again. And then the architect says, don't worry, we won't. So we won't. What happened in the new Matrix, Matrix 4? There was no architect. The architect perhaps knew that, oh, hi, Czar. The architect perhaps knew that you go out that door, it's foiling my plans for how to reset the Matrix. And he says, I should hope we won't, you should hope we don't meet again. Kind of like a threat, he's going to beat him up after school or something. And the architect says, don't worry, we won't. Now, the architect might know that's the end of him, his demise, but he says it still in an arrogant way. Don't worry, we won't. And the arrogant way he says it might be alluding to the fact that you're making a dreadful choice and all of humanity is going to be wiped out. So see that, but the point is that's what led to a completely different matrix in Matrix 4 from the perspective of the Merovingian and those in the Matrix. The only thing that led to a difference was Neo's choice in number 2. There's nothing else you can point to. And he chose love. All right, he chose specific love for Trinity and to take a chance and gamble on all of Zion for a chance that he could do it all. He could save Zion, he could get back with Trinity. It was overall a very reckless choice because chances are overwhelming that, if the architect of the whole matrix says you go through that door, you're all dead, well, why wouldn't he be able to back that up? So that's a different choice. And what Greg and I were saying is then that changed the code to a degree. That changed the code of what he was carrying. So when he reset the matrix, it was not. It was a little bit different. The code was a little bit different than what everybody expected when he reset the matrix, with that version of the matrix being shown to us in Matrix 4. And for some reason, art was destroyed. We had style, grace, conversation, not this beep 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 beep. And what's so fascinating, I would not be trying to break down a movie or do any of this if it wasn't completely relevant to our own world. If anybody's new here, we ponder on and off for years why true art and true beautiful expression of creativity cannot be produced in this world. I'm not talking about the Matrix. I'm talking about our reality, our world, our matrix called Earth. Something changed here. I mean, if those many of us in this community, we believe something changed. Reality itself changed. It might have been on the big day in 2001. Zara, you're gonna have to get down. Go ahead. Go ahead. Um, Something changed here in our own world. It's not a movie. Something literally changed. It's very similar to a reset of the Matrix. So when you have the Merovingian saying um, films were better, books were better, all stuff that at least the people here have been saying for years. I don't know what I don't see other channels noticing this, but we've been fascinated. Well, why is this? A big conversation Greg and I had was, does this reality, our world, Earth, not talking about the Matrix, does it work hard to squash creativity and not allow it to come into the forefront? Or is it almost, it doesn't even exist anymore in this world, if that's even possible? And either way, it cannot allow another great, album. It cannot allow another great movie, truly great television, poetry, art, classic Renaissance art. This reality does not allow it, whatever that means. And if you're new here, that's the weirdest thing you've ever heard. I don't have, say, 30 hours booking us into a room to explain it to you. I just, I'm sorry. We people have been here for years doing the work. So Greg and I came to the conclusion, well, look, there's still real people here. If we had endless resources, Greg and I could make a great movie if we had Steven Spielberg production teams and LucasArts at our bidding and unlimited budgets and people that knew how to. There's still real people here that are creative. So you can't say totally the reality is devoid of creativity. People will say they go into their local bar and there's a guy playing or a girl playing guitar that's incredible. So it's here. So it's more likely, of course, that the system simply will not ever allow real creativity and beautiful art that still can be generated by real human beings, as maybe as few of us that are still here. It will not allow it to ever get to the top. And this is what you could call a reverse Spike Lee, or an inverted Spike Lee, or if you will, a perverted Spike Lee. And I like the inverted Spike Lee. Now, the reality pushes, I think it not only does not go find an artist, or let's in this case use a musician that's incredibly good. And we all heard the stories in maybe the old reality, or in the 80s of the last century, or maybe before the, who knows, the 7/11 big day, 2001, A Space Odyssey reset, maybe. Um, Greg was, he's got ideas that Neo's reset of the Matrix, Neo is basically in resetting the Matrix is representing the big day itself, maybe. I hope, I don't truly understand where Greg's going there. He understands more about it than me. I'm not sure I'm ready to talk about that yet, but big thinking like that. So the point is, I'm sorry to be all over the place. We all heard the stories. Oh, down the road, there's this great rapper or great guitarist, and then of course everybody was told the same stories that they're so good that agents of the system will go find them and discover them, just like Eminem was discovered in the back of that warehouse in the 8 Mile, and that they're all discovered. If you're good enough, Matt, you'll be discovered and brought to the top. That's how we were told the world works. I mean, it might have worked to a degree like that before. People in their 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, we have our feet in both matrices, whatever you prefer. We've had our feet in both of them. It's that same age again. If you're 35, well, Matt, you've been using 35 or under for about 5 or 6 years. Shouldn't the number be going up? I guess, but it's always seems to be appropriate. If you're 35 or less, you might have had a baby foot in, excuse me, in the old Matrix, but you don't really remember. You don't remember what life was like. Um, and if you're older, you clearly remember a difference in realities. I'm not talking about a slow evolution. Well, Matt, that's what societies do. They evolve. That's what culture does. It kind of goes down the toilet. And no, a lot of us here believe it was almost like a different. There was some point something changed. It was like a different reality. But I guess that's for another discussion. So Greg and I were saying, it's not the old stories. Oh, they'll go discover a great artist and bring them to the front. Maybe that did happen back in the old Matrix for us in the real world. But now it's an inverted Spike Lee, and I'll explain that in a second. It's if there's somebody that's completely kicking ass at a bar and they're creative, it's almost like the system seems to try to go out of its way, so they never get discovered, or they never bring their talents and their beautiful art to the masses. There are a few exceptions, but the exceptions that I'm thinking of more like have done it themselves through YouTube and things like that. And there seems to be still rules in this matrix. If you're producing beautiful music on YouTube, can the system directly just shut you down because it doesn't want real fine art to propagate around the world? I don't think that's a rule it can't break, in my opinion. But it certainly doesn't go seek these artists out, whether it be again writers of movies, television shows, songs, singers, harpsichord players, violinists. It does not seek them out, the real talent that's here, and push it to the top. So the opposite is a reverse Spike Lee. Spike Lee has talent, but it's talent that the system can completely use and shape and manipulate the way it wants. It will use his good talent, and the system knew probably very whatever that means to you. The system. I talk about the reality itself. It knew Spike Lee could be manipulated to apply his talents into creating racial problems. There's not one thing Spike Lee has probably ever done that didn't actually lead to racial problems. Doesn't help anything. There's a whole movement. I don't want to turn this into this, but a whole movement of believing we need to do this. But when you back up and look down at what it actually does, it actually just creates more racism. So, a reverse Spike Lee is the system latched onto him and brought him to the top, the very top, because of how he could serve the system and how he could further destroy society, which is the opposite of bringing an artist that produces beautiful art to the top. So, Greg and I believe that there's still great art here, but it'll never find its way to the very top because it will be squashed out by the system. This is where Greg and I start to struggle. All right, we know the new iteration of the Matrix. The code was inserted. The Merovingian was hurt the most. In the new Matrix, art, style, culture, people talking amongst themselves, it doesn't exist. That's reflected in the appearance. Excuse me. That's reflected in the appearance of the Merovingian. And then he's extremely angry at Neo. He blames Neo did this. Neo carried that code. The only way this, in summary, the only way this matrix that is shown in Matrix 4 can be different than the others is it does to seem to advance, meaning the imagery is crystal clear 4K, not that greenish hue, and it's much larger. They go Tokyo, Hong Kong, and the only the code mostly did its job. It enhanced the matrix, but the one area where it destroyed was in art. Okay, that's clear from this presentation, and the Merovingian is a reflection of that. So again, the only reason, Greg and I are saying the only thing that changed, and it's not like a little thing. I mean, he chose the door, the main door, that his other predecessors did not choose. This is a huge thing that has to be the reason for the destruction of art. So we go back and try to apply whatever we learn in the Matrix to today's reality and say, well, why? How could choosing love? See, this is where Greg and I start to struggle. We hit a not start to struggle. We hit a brick wall. How does choosing love and then that is now part of the code. How does choosing love create a new matrix that's devoid of things that I guess propagate love or destroy art? He chose love that destroys art in the new matrix. And again, there's a lot of possibilities here. I don't want to just go all over the place, and I need to collect my thoughts on this for maybe another week. Talk to Greg a few times, but we were saying maybe, okay, maybe there is true love in the new Matrix. Now I'm talking about the movie because he chose love. That code is carried in the Matrix 4. It alludes to or shows you that some of the machines have actually um, come onto the, per love, have come to the side to assist the humans. I don't know what they called them. Not it's something like symbionts, something like that. And some of them weren't quite machine. They have a real world appearance and a machine appearance, almost like it's a hybrid of a machine, that bird creature, of a machine and an animal. So I'm not sure exactly what's going on there. But how could choosing love and that finds its way into the new matrix, create a new matrix with no art, and then more importantly, how does that relate to our world? It's a big, I don't know, that's a big task, of course, but at least from the movie's perspective, oh, there's something here that there's this love code is now in the matrix, and then it has to work overtime to squash art and anything that is an expression. If art in any way is an expression of love, it has to work overtime to squash it. I don't know. I don't know. This is where I struggle. But in terms of everything leading up to this, what the Merovingian represents, art itself, the only difference would be Neo's choice between the doors. Greg and we're about 100%. This is what it means. And I guess if we can't follow it through to the end, it's not typically uh, very insightful if we can't finish it. So I'll look to your comments. It doesn't mean we have to finish it today. And I wouldn't even be making this if we didn't see an exact parallel in our own world with what this scene is all about from the Merovingian in Matrix 4. And I think if Matrix explained that channel, I think um, they more looked at it more like it's a complaint. The Merovingians complaining, but no, it's actually describing something that really happened in our world. And Greg was saying, well, if you could have great music in the 70s or 60s or the last century and everything's devoid now, what's the big elephant in the room times 4,000 Jabba the Hutts is the big 7-Eleven, the event on 7-Eleven 2001 event. That's what else? If there's one thing that could have reset reality, almost like a different iteration of the Matrix, what would it be? Um, when the day they decided to cancel the Roseanne Barr show or whatever that? No, it would have to be the big day. So, you know, Greg was talking about this more than me. Greg is just Greg's been he's had a truth channel in the past. He has always assisted me in talking through some of that. He doesn't do his truth channel anymore. People that have been here a long time know who Greg is. Um, Greg was saying that um, it's like Neo's reinsertion of the code to reset the matrix is essentially what they did or tried to do. We'll just leave it at tried to do on the big day in 2001. And there's so much more there. 2001, guys. If anybody's new here, we're not going to get into like the whole two into one ritual. I mean, I don't understand it. I don't want to understand it, but there's just a whole ritual behind it. The two into one, the overcoming duality, and why they're so concerned with this stuff. Where Matt, shouldn't we be concerned? No, we don't need to be concerned with it, in my opinion. Excuse me. I'm not just saying that to make myself feel better. I don't believe that if they have to unlock some combination lock to escape here, or they need to do what they need to do. I don't think that in any way applies to what I am or what you are as a different type of incarnation. I think I have to spend all these time reading these books, and you know this person will offer you initiation of this, and this person will get initiated here, get initiated. Why? For what? But maybe you need that. I don't need that. Do you need that? Think about it. Do you really need that? Do you need to be initiated into something, that some combination lock given to you that this is what you need to do here, here? Why? I don't believe that. I really don't believe it. You might need it, or they, not you, but I'm talking. They might need it. Melvin P. You might need that. Bezos Clownos, Bezos Clownos, you might need that. I don't need that. So you don't think you need that? I'll take my chances. All right, I'm not going to ever get involved in any of that stuff. I'll take my chances. Do we have if we're not already out in our ability to get out, then whatever we need just lies inside of ourselves. We need no dark book. So anyway, what was I talking about? That I don't know. Let me collect my thoughts and wrap this up. No, I was saying that if you study the big day in 2001, I keep saying it a little differently because I still think there's some people here with us that came to this video because of the word Merovingian. But someone's like, Matt, they ain't still here with you. You can talk the way in your old hobo code. Anybody that stumbled upon this, they ain't here no more. I hear you. They're not. 7/11 2001: A Space Odyssey. If that makes you feel more comfortable, we'll just call it that. Um, yeah, the rituals associated with that are off the charts. I've seen different presentations, and again, this is not my area of expertise, but a lot of the way this is presented and the ritual associated with that, these people, get it. They pretty much get it right, in my opinion. The whole two into one, and you get it. You just, what I was saying is, why are they so? Everything's a ritual with them. They say that no, or the cornerstones of all the big buildings and major buildings in Washington, D.C. were laid out per the astrology that they needed for the cornerstone to be. Just like, well, Matt, that assists them in their quest for power. And it's just strange. Like everything's a ritual with them. Everything is done under, per a certain astrology. It's like, just live your life. See, they must be a different type of incarnation. It's like, okay, well, Matt, that could help you if you use this. Help me with what? All I care about's, you know, having some food in my stomach, putting a sweatshirt on, petting my cats. Why would, you must be a different type, not you, them. I'm talking to like them. They must be a different type of incarnation. Everything's about ritual. Everything's about the astrology. Everything's about harnessing energy and power. Just stop. For what? Is to get yourself a few more. You look at your bank account and it's just got a few more zeros. Like, what are they doing all this stuff for? It's so absurd. Get a life. Um, so, guys, just to wrap up, um, the whole, I wouldn't even be doing this except something in our world changed. I really believe that. I've presented years ago. Would ask you guys to comment. Do you believe something changed at any point, or it's always been this way, but we just notice it? See, we have two camps. We just notice it more because we've dropped veils. We can read the matrix code of our own reality. And you have people, it's almost been 50-50. I think it's a little bit more skewed to the way I'm skewing now. In the past, it was always 50-50, where at least I'm more that something, just to let you know, something changed via reality itself. And it might be associated with the 7/11 2001 A Space Odyssey. Something changed. Even if it was slight, it's like exponentially compounding onto itself to make bigger changes. I don't believe like this world devoid of art and music and all different forms of art, that the whole basis of this presentation. I don't think that's possible just by the creep squashing and keeping this artist is getting ahead, and let's make sure that person gets squashed down and running around squashing art down. I think there has to be something with the nature of reality itself where beautiful art and things like that can emerge. I think there's something changed. I really do. I was more like 50-50. Um, but in the past, and there's still a lot of people in the old camp that would say, Matt, no, it's the same boss. What did the Who say? Same boss, new boss, same as the old boss. It's always been here. It's just now you can see it. You've dropped all the veils. You can read the Matrix code. Morpheus in that modal in the movie one day just thinks he's hunting for Neo. He's in a program trapped inside of a program. The next day, he's seeing Matrix code. Everything changed for him. That's what happened in Matrix 4. That's what happened to you, Matt. I hear you. I think it's both, of course. I think we drop veils. We can read the code, but something also changed. The event in 2001 was too big, too creepy, too strange that it's almost feels like a resetting to a degree of the Matrix. Doesn't mean it's a completely new simulation or simply new reality, but I don't know. I don't know. It's something to me. If I have to put my roulette chip on one or the other, I still have a foot in both camps. But if I have to place it, I'll place it that something changed in reality itself. But also, I can see more, and that's also um, part of it. But for anybody under age 45, I'm over 50. The presentation, even though many of us here believe these creeps have always been here, going back to going back to 17, whatever, and it's always been part of the reality script. Wasn't like things were people just trying their best, and then, Ben Franklin's trying his best, and then something happened, a hijacking. It's always been here, whatever the dark of the event horizon. Uh, what does the guy say? The dark inside me, or whatever he says in Event Horizon. The dark inside this reality is pretty much, in my opinion, it's always been here. But its presentation, you've heard me say this many times, its presentation was much different in the 70s, 80s, 90s. It started in the 90s, I guess, the clown show, but it wasn't a clown show. Walter Cronkite reporting or Peter Jennings reporting was pretty much the same old fake stuff. Um, People getting into tuna fish cans and going off into whatever they're trying to do up there, and that bull crap, and wars they cook them up on both sides to create the war. They play the both sides, not for money. It's nothing to do with I'm sure that the monetary benefit benefits some of the creeps, but they don't do it for money. I mean, they've always been the creeps, but the presentation, Walter Cronkite reporting, seemed legitimate. It wasn't a clown show. It doesn't matter how many veils I've dropped. If I could be completely the same person I am now, go back in a time machine. You can watch it. Go watch a Peter Jennings report. The presentation was more believable. It wasn't a complete clown show like it is now. And the complete clown show is not just because we've dropped veils. It's a Even to people that are like normies, they're like, yeah, what's with every president's like a clown every more. Even they can see it. It's broken down. It's like it's missing gears. The whole matrix system here is like broken down into a clown show. Its presentation isn't nearly as polished or professional as to what it was in the last century. or before the big day in 2001, where they needed, they ushered in something potentially that's leading to the clown show. I like I like we talked about the intention and the imagination on Free Voice. I don't know how much I could even get into it here, but when you see a clown show presentation in the news, or just go to WashingtonPost.com on the homepage. Half the articles, half the presentations is going to be clown show. Just try to enhance the clown show. Just try to make it even more absurd. Think, what would Biden just did? He just did what with us? Biden just did that again? Then stop and say, what could he even do to make it even worse? Where this guy down the cul-de-sac might even wake up to it. What could Biden do to make it worse? Take his own head off the graft and put it into his arms and have the head. Well, I like that image, but maybe not that far. Maybe, what could Biden even do to make it worse? I'm going to picture every time I hear some clown show, I'm just going to stop and say, what would make it even more comical? Where even this guy over here down the cul-de-sac would say, what is this? This world, even he'll wake up to it. I'm going to keep those scenarios going the best I can related to the existing news stories. And when I can, picture Joe Biden cradling his own head in his arms, speaking in his head by itself like the headless cab driver speaking into a microphone, just to see if maybe we can push it to there someday. And that I think that would wake up most people, but I don't know. I don't know. I've got family members that would actually, if you explain, if somebody like Anderson Cooper came and explained it, well, wait a second, let me explain how Joe Biden was able to cradle his head and hold the head up to the mic, and let Anderson Cooper has an explanation. The world hasn't broken down. Oh yeah, he could probably explain that to half my family, and then they'd call me a conspiracy theory for claiming that a president or a false puppet shouldn't be able to remove his head. Anyway, so guys, I guess that's long enough. Um, I don't. I believe there's tremendous truth in the Matrix movies, the first three. I believe this series is more important to the creeps in terms of movies or a popular movie than anything else that's ever been put out. I don't believe something could be that important to them, and then 20 years later, they just, like these dummies at these movie reviewers, they just put this stuff out like, oh, they needed to make money, so they rekindled the Matrix, and Lana look at what brothers and sisters needed to make money, and they just put another movie out because they needed work. And come on, no, if they needed, let's just say that's right. If they needed to make money, why didn't they bring the Matrix back in? Wasn't but remember 2008, 2009? Wasn't there that housing issue and some people? Well, regular people were hurt. All the top billionaires, as usual, got more billions, and all the top. So that doesn't really apply. I hear you, but wouldn't they have just done it in 2008 or 2010? Or why wait 20 years where you have a whole generation that really isn't that familiar? Why wait 20 years? In my opinion, they had to wait 20 years per what this whole thing means to them. I don't know. I just sniff it and sense it. Per their astrology, they had to wait. They had to wait. And that's the movie reviewers. They'll never see it. They'll never understand the things that we kind of can sniff out. The critical drinker didn't like the movie at all. The same, whether he's aware of it or not at an unconscious level, he knows his role. His role is to point out how bad everything is. His role is to point out how everything is social justice warrior and blue hair, and that is his role. He knows that he's smart. Continuing that formula leads to million subscribers and then to 2 million, whether he's in on anything or not, or he that is his role to serve this system, to point out how bad everything has become and the social justice warrior nature of everything. And that is, he's actually fulfilling a role that the system wants. The system wants people upset at themes and Kathleen Kennedy themes and the pushing of the Mary Sue. They want people pissed off. So, but he didn't like I believe he's giving a legitimate review. It's not just fulfilling his role of saying how bad everything is. That's part of it, and that is his role. But he didn't like any part of the movie. It wasn't, and even comparing it to The Force Awakens, it wasn't that bad. Considering when it was first coming on The Matrix, I thought I literally believe this reality cannot produce another Raiders of a Lost Ark or Poltergeist in 81. It can't do it. It's devoid of having the ability to do that. So I told you this before I watched The Matrix, guys. I said, if this is good at all, then they did the very best they can. Look at the Merovingian. That is personification of art. They can't do it. So I think it took everything they could muster to do as good of a job as they did because the reality can't do it. It's just like this guy used to be a great batter last century. You could hit 400, hit 50 home runs. Then he lost a leg and part of a foot. That's this reality regarding art. He lost a leg and part of a foot. Now, do you expect his name was Matrix and he was a great home run hitter, and then he took 20 years off and he came back? You really expecting this guy with no leg and half a foot, his name's Matrix, he's just going to step right in and start hitting 50 home runs again? This is what exists today. So I said, if this was good at all, then it's the best they could do. The absolute, because they're devoid of it, of imagination at the highest levels. And why, Matt, why can't they just go seek real people out to make the movie? Then things could get out that they don't want. I don't know, but at least at their level, they can't do it. So, which means to me, they did the very best they could. It was in no way, like I've said, an attempt to destroy the first three. No way. The themes, the Merovingian theme by itself is just incredible and is completely suited to what's going on in reality today. This whole video is just a presentation is just on one part, the Merovingian part. So for the critical drinker to form parallel with The Force Awakens, no way. The Force Awakens and the last three Star Wars were meant to be bad. They were created to be bad and were created to, in some way, destroy the original three, the destroy the whole franchise itself. So potentially, probably the franchise will go away because we've seen that theme the attempt to destroy has happened, you know, all over the place in pretty much all major franchises, right up through Star Trek Discovery. So, but the Matrix is different, guys, and I said this before. The Matrix, it's not just any other sci-fi set of movies to the creeps. It has its own level of importance. They use it to deliver certain messages. And when I asked Greg after he saw it the first time, I said, "Is this just a movie that was put out to make money, or there's something? Is there a meaning here that it's worth looking at closely?" And he said, It's worth looking at. There's things here that we can learn from." And again, these ideas are just to a movie reviewer, like a critical drinker, have no idea what we're even talking about. But even you take the truth that we potentially can uncover out of it to trash the movie that badly. It's just I don't. Wasn't that bad. It wasn't. What did in a reality is devoid of being able to make good movies for almost 20 years. What did in terms of if your expectations were right, it was phenomenal. What did you expect? Another Matrix as good as number one? When we know in this community the reality just simply can't do that? Whatever you believe the reason for that is, it can't do it. The one-legged batter is not going to come in and start hitting 400. That's what we have here in terms of art and creativity in our Matrix. It's a one-legged batter. Can't do it. If the guy gets a home run every 30 or 40 or 50 at bats, I'm like, he's pretty good. That's the way I saw the Matrix. And when I watched it the second time and understood more, it got better. And I watched it a third time, it got even better. No horrible movie can do that. It wasn't horrible. I know it's cool and everything to say how horrible everything is all the time. It wasn't. It was absolutely not horrible. Now, am I bowing down to it? It wasn't anywhere near the first Matrix. It wasn't anywhere near a great movie like Forrest Gump or some of the movies of in the stuff in the 70s and 80s and 90s. Not even in the same ballpark. It couldn't even hold up their jock. But it wasn't, considering what's out today, not that bad at all. Okay, guys, just to go back to what was said, and then I'll end the video. Um, it is you, after all these years. I can't believe it. You stole my life. You ruined every suck my silly ass thing. We had grace, we had style, we had conversation. Not this beep 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 beep. Art, film, books were all better. Originality mattered. You gave us face, Zucker suck, and cock me climatey. Climatey. Wiki piece and shit. It is not over yet. Okay. Um, you know, if you want to think about this, guys, and comment, if you can figure some of this out, where Greg and I are hitting a brick wall. How did how did Neo give the new Matrix? How did Neo give us? See, it's a parallel. The new world in the Matrix, the reset of the Matrix, is a parallel to our world. They're absolutely try to do that, where they didn't do that in the first Matrix trilogy. It was like this a land far, far away, or a galaxy far, far away, and now they made a parallel. Oh, that's San Francisco. Oh, they mention Hong Kong, and they show everybody in the elevator on their phones. They're absolutely tying our world as it exists today into the world of the Matrix 4. So in the world of the Matrix 4, the Merovingian blames Neo for destroying all art and originality. But how did Neo bring the world? He says, "You, Neo, you gave us face Zucker suck, gave us Facebook and Zuckerborg." Okay, so see that it's basically saying the movie's saying this Matrix 4, the world presented in it, is not a movie. It's our world. He says face Zucker. I'm going to use that in the future. Face Zucker suck. Zuckerborg is in the Matrix 4, as he's just was told. We're told by the Merovingian he's in Matrix 4 reality. He's in our reality. So the Matrix 4 reality is our reality. Neo also. Well, how is it Neo's fault for Facebook? See, that's what Greg and I are trying to figure out. What did Neo brought love through the code by choosing the wrong door, but how does that lead to Facebook? We're not there yet. Maybe we'll never get there. So Neo also brought, the Merovingian says, cock me, cock me climatey, Climatey. Okay, climate, right? Climate. That's the word climate. And why is there a Y in the end? What's our hobo code for climate change? It's I don't know, but he's blaming Neo for that? He's making a statement that ain't quite legit, and then he's blaming Neo for Wikipedia and all the other wiki piss and shit. Well, what did Neo? How did Neo? How's that Neo's fault for bringing love into the new Matrix? This again, Greg and I, we don't have a clue yet. We'll try to keep going, but what we do know is that the Matrix 4 world is meant to be our world, folks, where the old Matrix wasn't, and something happened, okay? And something's being said in the Matrix, and it's not just a movie that they put out 20 years later to make some money. No, there's more going on than that. Thanks for listening.